lovely people, I'm back with a Calvine update, of course. So this whole story has really hit the big time. I was on Alien Addict TV show or webcast, and although I chickened out of being live, I contributed via a chat room. And they asked some really good questions about things like, how does the lake work? And it was revealed that it's a reservoir that changes height, and right now the wee rock is visible, but when the water level's higher, and they did some excellent research to show that the rock can be covered when the reservoir is full. But what was it like in August 1990? There was a heat wave and a drought, and the peaky rock would have been visible. So excellent work by Alien Addict, and thanks for having me on your show. Richard Dolan, a ufologist, is all over the Calvine story. He amused me greatly by saying, "Back in the mists of time, more than a human lifetime ago, in 1990, in England, a UFO..." Hang on, then. It's Scotland, and more than a lifetime ago, 1990. Okay, yeah, I suppose it was a while ago. but the whole story has really hit the big time, and people are reassessing it. All thanks to David Clarke. Good one, David. And David has now released a video that he shot explaining the process of how he got the original photograph back from the Ministry of Defense by asking the guy who had it, who says, "Ooh, nobody's really contacted. It took you 30 years to get to me," which is great. Yeah, and this guy had, in the original envelope, sent to him by the newspaper, a high-quality print of the Calvine UFO picture.
Here we are at Calvine in the Scottish Highlands. Where we're standing at the moment is about 11 miles northwest of the town of Pitlochry, and this is the place where one of the most famous UFO photographs in UK history was taken. And so the scene you can see behind me, you may have seen a simulated version of what this photograph looked like, showing the Scottish mountains in the background. This has been produced, this is like an artist's impression. So that's what a lot of people will have seen online, but the actual photograph was taken in a different position, which we can actually see from here. Now that is a first generation photocopy taken from an original print, where you can see a wire fence running in the background, even with some what looks like wool from the local sheep caught on the fence, and we can see some Scots pine hanging from the top of the image. You can very clearly see the object, the diamond-shaped object that was described, and what appears to be one RAF aircraft immediately below it. And so the scene that you can see on the actual image, the Calvine photograph, we believe is up there on the hill, Struan Point. So this story should have originally been in the Daily Record. The photograph was taken one evening in August 1990. Two guys who were working in a hotel at Pitlochry called the Atholl Palace Hotel. They'd gone out after work to do a walk in this area. They'd parked at Calvine. They'd gone through a wood and over a fence, and when they were over the fence, they suddenly realised that there was a large diamond-shaped silent object hovering in the sky above them. And understandably, they were pretty perturbed at this, really scared. They ran back to the fence where the wood was, and as they were waiting, they heard the noise of a jet coming down the valley. And the jet appeared to go past this object, disappeared into the distance, and then sometime later returned and began circling around it. And at that point, they started taking photographs. I've been looking into this UFO photograph for some time, since some basic images were released by the National Archives in 2008, after a lot of investigative work, I managed to track down Craig Lindsay, who was the RAF press officer at the time, who received these images from the Daily Record in Glasgow. When we met, he brought the actual original colour photograph that he'd kept for 31 years, and I was able to examine that. He's basically spoken for the first time because I contacted him. I was able to track him down. No one had asked him about this until I called him. And he interviewed by phone one of the two witnesses who had actually been out here and actually seen this object in the sky and took the photographs. And they told a very straightforward, convincing story. They were obviously wanted to know what this thing was, whether they'd seen something that was secret. So they sent their photographs and negatives to the picture desk at the Daily Record in Glasgow. And it was the picture editor at this newspaper who phoned the RAF press office at RAF Petrevey Castle. So that's how Craig came into the story, and they said that they'd been sent these photographs and they'd like a comment. But Craig said, well, I'd need to see the photographs first before I could give any comment. So what happened was they sent one of the best images in an envelope by courier to the RAF Petrevey. So that's the point at which Craig then contacted Secretariat Air Staff 2A, which was, everyone knows, was the UFO desk in London. He faxed a copy of this image to them. They didn't seem particularly interested at first, but as soon as they saw the image, they came back and said, yeah, can you get hold of the negatives? Can you speak to the men who saw this thing or claimed that they'd seen this thing? So that's the point at which he phoned them and found out exactly what had happened. And we finally, after all these years, are now getting to the truth about this photograph, but there are still many unanswered questions. We still don't know whether this was a genuine unidentified object or whether it was some kind of secret military technology that's still on the secret list.
David has different views on it, and he seems to know what he's talking about, and is kind of hinting that it is a strange diamond-shaped UFO. I think it's a rock, but one of the problems with the rock theory is that a lot of you viewers have pointed out is that the wee jet, if it's a reflection in the loch, the wee jet would be upside down, and it's taken me like 3 days to get my head round why it would appear upside down. But this guy has done a brilliant analysis, and what he suggests is maybe we're looking at the photograph upside down. If you turn it the other way up, it all becomes clearer, and maybe the trees at the top are a reflection in the water, and so is the fence. And in fact, the diamond-shaped craft is the rock reflected in the water, and then if it's upside down, the jet becomes the right way up. I think it's quite a good theory. It doesn't change the fact that it's a rock and a jet circling overhead doing pre-Gulf War practice maneuvers. That's what I heard freaked out the MOD. They didn't want to announce that maybe this was a German Harrier or an American Harrier that was practicing over the Scottish Highlands, and that would be a bit of a game giving away that there was about to be a conflict. That's what I've heard was the reason the MOD didn't like it. They didn't really care about the rock or the triangle thing. They knew that it wasn't a UFO, but they were concerned that somebody had taken a picture of what could be identified as a foreign country's Harrier doing low-level practice flights prior to a large conflict which hadn't yet been announced on the 4th of August 1990. So that's my update on the Calvine UFO. Thanks very much for paying attention to my ramblings. Hopefully I am being open-minded enough for you to accept that I'm telling you the truth. If new information, or when new information breaks, I'll bring it to you, because the truth is still out there.